Live from parts unknown, you're listening to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast, the only wrestling podcast on the planet, we think. Sit back, relax, prepare for positivity to run through your veins as Simon Miller gives you your weekly dose of powerful pro wrestling audio. It is Miller Time.
Hello and welcome to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Show. I mean, 2020's been going on for a while, but we haven't done these for a little bit just because you know how it works. You have to get back into the swing of things. But we are well and truly there now, which is why, yes, if you are listening to this, be on the podcast feed or on the YouTube feed or whatever, it's a wrestling show. You're not seeing my face. You're just seeing the thumbnail, which makes some people mad. Don't know why, but that's YouTube comments for you. And this is basically where I reach out to one of my patrons, patreon.com/Simon Miller 316, and they are able to come on the show, and you basically get to talk about whatever you want, genuinely. It's your show. One of the reasons I do it is because I think it's a nice perk to offer through Patreon anyway, but also it's just cool to talk to the wrestling community. You never know what feelings and thoughts and emotions people are going to have about wrestling. The one I always go back to is the guy that I got on didn't like wrestling, but wanted to talk about it anyway. I was like, awesome, man. Who knows where this chat is going to go? And the very excellent thing about what we've been doing this a while now is that people are coming back on the show. So hopefully you recognize the voice, you understand their opinions, you understand their ups, their downs, their left, their rights. That's why my man Nick is back on today. Nick, how you doing, my friend? You well?
I'm doing really good. I'm excited for our first podcast of the new decade.
Hell yeah, new decade is true. Well, then you get that one guy going, it's not a decade. It's like, oh, go away.
Yeah.
But we're going to do an NXT UK special. Well, not NXT UK, an NXT General special today.
Yeah.
It's not something that I'm able to talk about a lot on my podcast just because of my, what culture duties. It's the one show that it does take a back seat just because I have to prioritize other things for my job. I'm very lucky that I'm able to do that. But I always do catch up when I can. And obviously, it's quite a big few months for NXT. You know, they are hopefully going to have a better rating than we're recording this on a Thursday, to pull back the curtain. But hopefully, their rating will be better than it was last week. Obviously, that caused a little bit of controversy. But more importantly than that, we are but 4 days removed as of recording from NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool 2. And the really cool thing I find about that show is that, WWE and Triple H put so much, or they highlight that more than maybe they necessarily do the week-to-week show. And what usually happens is a lot of people will go and watch the pay-per-view that don't watch the week-to-week TV show, and they are introduced to all of these guys and girls who absolutely kill themselves. And I kind of feel like that's what they did over the weekend and in Blackpool. And I know, Nick, you want to talk about that, so I'll pass the ball over to you. And yeah, we can just get into it.
Yeah, so a lot of people like to say that, WWE doesn't really highlight the UK brand as much as they should. So in other words, they don't care. But that's the thing. When you actually tune in, the talent on the roster, they make you care because that's just how amazing they are. I mean, it goes without saying that there are times where, the weekly show doesn't really highlight a whole lot of stuff. Sometimes you'll get a lot of random matches, but they do build some good storylines on that show occasionally. And whether you want to catch up with that on YouTube or actually tune in, it's just how you consume it. But I said in our last podcast that my favorite match of last year was from TakeOver Cardiff, which was NXT UK, Walter versus Tyler Bate. Absolutely incredible match. And this show didn't run too long. All the matches were very exciting. So to start, it was Trent versus Eddie Dennis. A decent start to a show. I wasn't expecting like a huge banger match, but man, that one spot where Eddie Dennis just threw Trent over the top rope, man, that got me good.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was absolutely nuts. Like, I mean, again, I sometimes with shows like that I get too late, you always get some kind of opinion. And I didn't hear anybody talking about that. I was like, more people should be talking about Eddie Dennis trying to kill another human being. Again, it's 2020. You can go find that clip on Twitter within seconds. It is, and it was kind of cool as well because obviously the tease was that he was going to throw him into the exposed turnbuckle.
Yep.
I thought it was a quite nice story to us, but instead, he just went, nah, screw that. I'll chuck you onto the floor. I mean, yeah, absolutely, just nuts, man, proper nuts.
Yeah, exactly. And So yeah, shout out to Trent Seven for willing to take that spot. He is a legend in the biz. So and Eddie Dennis won, which I think was the right result. And then
I think so too, because he's been out so long with injury that now they're finally getting behind him. I think he's one of those guys that's maybe not as established as he should be, again because of his injuries. So now win over someone like Trent Seven, who's kind of he's almost a pillar of that whole brand.
Mm-hmm.
If you weren't sure before, now you're like, okay, I got to take Eddie Dennis seriously. Yeah, so I agree.
Yeah, and then after that, the triple threat for the women's title was pretty stellar. These women had incredible chemistry. Didn't expect Kaylee Ray to retain. I kind of thought they were going to put it on Piper because I feel like she's deserved a little run. But at the same time, we haven't seen a whole lot of Kaylee Ray, really establishing herself as a dominant champion. So I'm okay that she retained.
I am too. I think as well there may be. And maybe there's more going on here than we know. I know that I know it kind of ties into some of the stuff that's going to happen that we're going to talk about later. But I can certainly see Toni Storm maybe moving to quote unquote proper NXT, and maybe Piper Niven wasn't at 100%. Obviously, shout out to Piper Niven who suffered Bell's palsy only about 6 weeks or so ago. Now, obviously, the crazy thing about Bell's palsy is it's a disease that most wrestling fans know about just because of Jim Ross.
Yep.
I would never have. I don't think I even would have looked into it because I wouldn't have even known about it if it wasn't for him. But it's a real terrible thing to go through. So to come back from that and put on the kind of triple threat match that these three girls did, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And I'm with you. I didn't mind Kaylee Ray keeping it because I think Toni Storm's going to go off and do her own thing. I think Piper Niven. Maybe that's the feud you do now. You do Piper Niven versus Kaylee Ray, and you properly build Piper Niven up for the victory. But yeah, I think Kaylee Ray needs a proper run. I think she needs to establish herself a little bit more, and matches like this absolutely do that because again, she's going to have a bigger audience on her. So yeah, I liked it. Again, for me at this point, especially when I was watching it, was 2 for 2.
Exactly, and then. So I want to mention that in a previous Q&A thread, I asked you what would be like the match of the night on this show, and I personally thought it would be the ladder match. No, it was this next match. Tyler Bate versus Jordan Devlin. Man,
crazy.
Tyler Bate, it is absolutely criminal that I'm like 10 years older than him, and he still has a bright future ahead of him, and he's already established he's like a megastar at his age.
He's 22 years old for people that don't know. He's 22 years old.
Jeez, 11 years older than me. But man, he just puts on the most stellar matches. He tells the best stories. I mean, like I said, the match with Walter was incredible. And this match with Jordan Devlin, just about lived up to that standard as well. I mean, these guys just went to war with each other. I will say this, though. I really think Jordan Devlin should have won because they kind of need to build him up in a sense that, Walter's going to need future challengers, and Jordan Devlin kind of needs some leverage and some rub from guys that we know are established talents like Tyler Bate. So I guess that would be the only thing about it is that I really think Jordan Devlin should have won. But hey, I'm happy with Tyler Bate winning, and also maybe
I do know what you mean.
Sorry, but maybe like with Toni Storm, maybe he's going to be going to NXT at Full Sail soon. So I don't know.
Maybe
we'll see what happens.
I hope you're right. I think you're on the ball there with Jordan Devlin. Jordan Devlin to me has almost become like Finn Balor. Mm-hmm. On the main roster before he moved down to NXT, like a guy that you can just, you can just. He's put in matches like this because everybody knows that he can do a really, really good job. Mm-hmm. But there doesn't seem to be a real impetus to push him in the way. Probably because they know he's like a Dolph Ziggler character too. They know how good he is at professional wrestling and that you can put him in there with whoever you want and he's going to absolutely smash it. But they don't necessarily see a proper path for him, which I find a bit crazy because you're right. To me, I don't think it massively hurts either of them. But Tyler Bate given how he has been pushed by the brand and how he is positioned, I think could have lost here, and Jordan Devlin would have got something out of it, especially because it was like a 22-minute match. Like those last 5-10 minutes, the crowd was so into it. I think a win like that would have really put him over the top. You're right. I'm with you. I don't think it makes a difference. If one of them did jump across to NXT, that would make more sense. But I hope that we're not putting Jordan Devlin in that position of, he's not really happy, smiley guy, but I don't know. I don't want it to be just a workhorse. I think there's more there, and I think going forward for NXT UK in general, if we're going to keep building on it, he's one of the people you need to use as kind of like part of your foundations. But we'll see. Again, it's one of those matches where who really cares who wins and loses, because it was just so good and it was so much fun to watch. And as you said, it was a real eye opener about how good some of these guys are. I mean, Jordan Devlin's only 29. He's 30 in like a couple of months, I believe.
Wow.
So it's not like he's not past his prime, or he's not an old dude or anything like that. So the future is bright for both of these guys, but it all comes down to booking. But yeah, this was absolutely the match of the night. This is one of those matches that if you haven't seen it, just go and watch it. If you like wrestling, you'll be impressed with how hard they hit each other, and just all of it is top. All of it is top.
Exactly. And then we had the ladder match next. It was still fun, even though I thought it was going to be match of the night, but again, still fun, still entertaining. I think it was the few botches that really dragged it down, but especially the part where I think it was Mark Coffey that his table just collapsed, unfortunately, when Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews were trying to do that double ladder spot, but they improvised really well. They did that double team move on top of Wolfgang, and I thought that was and see, that's one of the hardest things about pro wrestling. And especially it's kind of like in the acting biz, it's like if something goes wrong, you improvise, and sometimes it turns out better than originally planned, and it makes you forget about what just happened. So credit to those guys for pulling that out. In terms of the result, I'm okay with Gallus retaining, because again, they haven't had the titles for very long. I think this was like their first defense since having it. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, I think it was the right result. What do you think?
No, I think it went too long. I hate saying
too
that
long,
because these guys killed it, right? I don't like being like, it went too long. Who cares? Like, ultimately, this was just 6 guys that went in there and they absolutely killed themselves. 8 guys, sorry.
8 guys.
They went in there and absolutely killed themselves. Like, it was. I sometimes I think we're overcritical as wrestling fans, but yes, I mean, in terms of my enjoyment as a fan sat on my couch, I think you probably could have chopped off sort of 8 minutes and it would have been equally as powerful. But, and again, I don't even necessarily mind botches, because I know where you're coming from, but it happens, right? We're all human beings. I make mistakes all the time, but I'm lucky in the sense that as long as it's not live, nobody gets to see it. That's the awesome thing of a live environment. But to me, WWE just doesn't do bad ladder matches. They just don't. They have a formula for them, but that's fine. It's like the Royal Rumble. Everyone says, the Royal Rumble should be 40 or 50 people. No, the Royal Rumble is special still. I don't know how they do it, but it has to tie into the 30-man concept. It just does. There has to be a reason for that. And as for Gallus retaining, what I did enjoy is that while this was a takeover and a big event and it was pushed as such, nobody lost their belt. And I think it's massively crucial to do that sometimes, because it allows titles to feel important when they do switch hands. And you probably could have changed the tag, or you could have changed the women's. I never thought that the UK Championship would change. I just didn't think that Joe Coffey felt like he was... other way around, I didn't think like Walter was ready to lose it. It just didn't feel like the right time. But the fact that they all walked away from their titles, it just sets a precedent. It sets some education for people watching that don't overly expect what we usually do, because we will try and circumvent your expectations. So yeah, I thought it was awesome. It probably didn't help that the last 3 matches went like 20, 25 and then 30. Again, I think we probably could have shaved off some stuff all over the place there, maybe added another short match in. But again, this is me being a massive pedant. I thought they were 3 amazing last matches. I think maybe if you had switched around the Tyler Bate Jordan Devlin match with the ladder match, because Tyler and Jordan could have easily have followed a ladder match, even though it was full of carnage. But yeah, I was fine with Gallus winning. They kind of still feel like they're finding their feet. The tag team championships helps with that. Imperium is still associated with Walter, so they're always going to be a big deal. And Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster and Grizzled Young Veterans are, well, they're so talented they can get away with it. And it would have been a bit weird if we had given it back to Andrews and Webster so soon as well. They got it and then lost it and then got it again. You start to play hot potato. So I think this made sense. Yeah, I think this made sense. And again, not as well, didn't win the match of the night as you rightfully say, but it's a WWE ladder match, which again, it's never bad. It's never bad.
Yeah, and that's kind of the one thing that Adam Cleary said on his ups and downs video, I think, yeah, he did the ups and downs. So it's like it's a ladder match. Like, what are you complaining about? Ladder matches are always fun. Like, yeah, they're scary sometimes, depending on the situations the wrestlers put themselves in. But yeah, it's like, how can you not enjoy a ladder match? They're just loads of fun, and you just gotta trust that the wrestlers will be careful. But yeah, so yeah, good on those guys. So now with Walter versus Joe Coffey, what I liked about it, obviously, is it's two big beefy lads just on a collision course with each other, and I'm a guy of variety. I love me a video game match, but I also love just a big hoss battle.
As you should, man. Yeah.
And I guess the one thing is, the one issue here is that this is obviously Joe Coffey's second chance at the UK title, and ironically, it was his first attempt was Blackpool from last year. And I guess a lot of people think that Joe Coffey was just kind of being filler here for Walter until they can, kind of properly build a new challenger for him. But I didn't really think that mattered. Both these guys, they were clobbering each other. And I mean, what more do you want? I mean,
no,
I didn't expect Walter to lose either, like you said. I think he needs to hold that title for a long time to really establish his dominance and be like the big credible threat that everyone needs to take down. But again, Joe Coffey put in a good effort. In fact, I would say this was probably better than him versus Pete Dunne last year. I'll go as far as that. Only because there were botches in that first match. This one, not as many, and also there was that big moment of suspense with that incredible ref bump, man. I mean, taking a drop kick from Walter, man, you're a champ.
Just throwing himself out the ring, yeah.
And then you got Alexander Wolf interfering, and then Ilya Dragunov coming in to stop him. I mean, again, it's a very intense story, and I genuinely enjoyed it.
No, I'm with you. Again, potentially a little bit too long, but only because of the thing you've already mentioned. Like when I've got two big dudes just brawling it out. I mean, I'm not saying they should have done this, but my favorite two big dudes brawling out match ever is WrestleMania 33, Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar. Exactly. And that was less than 5. That's what I want. I want high impact. I want it to be quick. But I understand there was a world championship match, but it wasn't in the main event. I understand there is a certain expectation. And I really, like you said, what else did I expect from this? Not a lot. And the ref bump was good. And these guys were laying it in, which is just the way in 2019. But I guess for me, if I was going to criticize it, it's not even, a lot of people are focused on the wrestlers themselves. To me, it was just sort of the atmosphere of everything going in. For one reason or another, NXT UK hadn't made me believe that Joe Coffey could win. And that is massively important when you have a match like this, because I sat there for 30 minutes going, I just don't, even with the near falls, I just don't think they're going to do it. And then when you're right, you're like, oh, well, that, that would be the case. But that happens. That's not exclusive to this show. It won't be exclusive to other shows. It's just sometimes you get a feeling in your head that they're building to something else. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy it for what it was. So again, yes, maybe potentially a little bit too long, but that's being very pedantic, pulling at straws. I thought it was a good main event. I thought the card overall was awesome. I thought the fans were excellent. I thought there was some nice nods along the way to, the crowd that was there, the audience that was there. And I can't believe that if you watch this, you would have been massively disappointed necessarily. Well, I wasn't anyway.
Exactly, and then obviously when you see the copyright thing at the bottom, you think, all right, time to go home. nope, here come the Undisputed Era, because we need to set up Worlds Collide, which we're going to talk about here in a second.
Exactly, yeah, and I love stuff like that. I think right now all shows from AEW to WWE to NXT, they all seem to be on the money when it comes to giving you a reason to tune in next week. That this seems to be the big thing now, which it should be. Create that excitement for 7 days down the line. And I think that right now everybody is coming up with these ideas, and how cool was that as well? The Blackpool crowd loved it. Undisputed Era as a proper stars. So yeah, it just ticked all the boxes.
Exactly, and it is kind of sad that we didn't get an Adam Cole baby before they turned the cameras off, but I heard they did it after the cameras were off, and so to kind of pop the UK crowd a little bit. Yeah, it would have been kind of nice just to see it on camera, just that little extra thing,
I guess they wanted to focus on on the sort of the angle and the match.
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh, we're doing this, which I totally understand. And again, it's one of those things you can argue as a reason to go to a wrestling show live, because you get a little extra something. But yeah, as you say, it does build to Worlds Collide. Now, if people don't know what Worlds Collide is, it's basically what has taken the place of Takeover over WrestleMania. Not WrestleMania weekend, over Royal Rumble weekend. It's going down on January 25th in 2020. It'll be in Texas, obviously. That's when the Rumble is. And right now, and we're going to talk about these individually, but just so you have an idea of what the card is, because they did announce more on NXT last night, so I hope what I've got here is up to date. It is, of course, Imperium versus the Undisputed Era in an 8-man tag match. If you don't think that's going to be crazy, think again. You've got Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm, obviously for the NXT Women's Championship, which ties into this idea that Toni Storm may be moving there. You've got Finn Balor versus, I can never pronounce his name, Dragunov, which that's got indie nerd fan dreams written all over it. And you've also got Angel Garcia versus Isaiah Scott versus Jordan Devlin, or El Ligero, obviously, versus Brian Kendrick or Travis Banks. I think they are working that out now for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, and the big one, DIY reforming to take on Moustache Mountain. Now, obviously, the concept of Worlds Collide is to take NXT and NXT UK and push them together. And I imagine we're going to get a couple of more matches potentially, but my word, even if we just get those 5, and NXT does tend to give us shorter cards. Again, if you are invested in all of everything that WWE is doing with its NXT stuff, that is pretty damn good on paper.
Oh man, when they were announcing those matches last night, I was just like, take the needle, inject me with everything. I want it all.
That's how it should be. That's how it should be. You should be excited.
When I saw that tweet from Trent 7 saying, DIY's coming back, well, twirl the mustache. What do you guys think? I'm like, yes, give me DIY versus Mustache Mountain. Give me all of it. All of it. I want it all. So
the cool thing about that is nobody believed that you'd be able to reform DIY when they were knee deep in their feud.
No.
But a real situation with Tommaso Ciampa's next that just gave him so much sympathy and so much empathy, and again did turn him into this out of nowhere babyface. This is why wrestling is so cool. Like, the real situations can merge with the storyline, and now we don't care, even though it's a little bit on the nose. You're like, yeah, well, we get it. And the reaction to I saw it all on the internet this morning. The reaction to DIY getting back together. And everybody wants to use their old music, and they want to see all their old moves, and they're taking on 2 guys that are really, really good, and you don't necessarily see all the time on normal NXT. It's just exciting, and it's different, and I think it justifies the Worlds Collide concept pretty much instantaneously.
Let me ask you something real quick before we continue on. At this point, would you want to see them kind of go back to the Gargano Ciampa feud that was kind of technically never finished?
No, I don't think. Well, look, if they want to do it, I don't have a problem with stuff like that. Look, you've left it open. It wasn't your fault. There's nothing they could have done.
No.
But I kind of think sometimes you just have to go with the lay of the land. And to me, the structure of the roster and the stories they've got going on, I just think you should leave it where it was. It is a shame because they had invested so much time into it. And sure, look, if it is true that Tommaso and Johnny are going to stay on the NXT forever and they have no thoughts about going to Raw or SmackDown, then you can do it eventually. And no one's going to get mad at you then either, again, because there's extenuating circumstances. But I just don't think you need to do it now. I don't. I hope this doesn't turn into some kind of schmoz or some kind of twist. They've obviously got programs going on that will culminate over WrestleMania weekend as well. I think we should just stick to those for now. And then, yeah, sure, if we get sort of later in the year and you want to do it, it's always there. But I just don't think you need to rush it. I just don't. I just think it was what it was, and it was a shame. But that's wrestling. You can't help people getting injured. There are some people that get so annoyed about it. I'm like, dude, it wasn't Triple H's fault. He didn't want this to happen. What would you want to see? Would you want to see it?
Well, Well, yeah, I mean, like anybody, I would have liked to see it have like a real definitive conclusion. But,
Of course, yeah.
But the 3 takeover matches they did, they were absolutely phenomenal. And it's like, I'm sure they have the ability to top those matches. But look, if it never happens, then will I be disappointed? Yeah. Am I going to lose sleep over it? Not really. Because, I think what they're doing right now is great. We're getting a one-time DIY reunion out of it. I'm fully on board with that. And then, the other announcement: Finn Balor versus Dragunov. Are you kidding me? That's going to be an excellent match, man.
That's going to be. It's one of those things that probably would have been because obviously Finn Balor's got his own feud at the moment, and he's going to have his big blow-off match. But this is why I really like the Worlds Collide concept because. It's like you're playing a video game or something. Which 2 guys do I want to put together? I think you can say the same for someone like Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm, but that's just not as exciting as Finn Balor versus Dragunov, just because those 2 guys have been around longer. As simple as that, right? You've been anticipating it for longer. And because they're doing it under the NXT banner and not the WWE banner, you just don't know what kind of match you're going to get. And it's a singles match, and you could potentially have Finn Balor lose. I mean, you could come up with an idea. I don't think it will happen, but you could. But that, to me, is one of those things that could happen the night before the Rumble and that everybody is talking about it for a while. Like, if you don't know about Dragunov, which I assume some people don't, because I know a lot of people that listen to this are Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite views, which is fine. You don't have to watch everything. But he is a very under-the-radar talent, and when Finn Balor, I feel, works with those kind of people, you do get magic if you are into this, we'll call it 2020 wrestling style. I mean, it could be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I really didn't know who Ilya Dragunov was until he came to NXT UK.
And nor should you, dude. Like, I don't like this idea you have to know everybody. No, you don't.
No. And it's like, when he came in, it's like, oh my God, this guy's incredible. He's a hard hitter, and he commands a presence, when he gets up on the turnbuckle and he's, maestering the crowd and everything, he exudes a presence. And, when he's pointing down at the camera, looking at you with those eyes, yeah, it's just you feel that intimidation when he's in the ring. So, yeah. So Finn Balor, Dragunov, I mean, I don't know. That could be my pick for match of the show, but it's too early to tell at this point because I think they might still be announcing more matches. But, yeah, really looking forward to that. Now, as far as the Cruiserweight stuff, so last night they had a triple threat between Tyler Breeze, Isaiah Swerve Scott, and Lio Rush. And the winner of that was going to be put into the Fatal 4-Way for the Cruiserweight title at Worlds Collide. And Isaiah Swerve Scott won that match. So as of right now, it's Garza and Scott, and they still got 2 spots available. So I presume they're going to give those 2 spots to some UK talent, but it remains to be seen at this point. We just got to, tune into the next episode and find out.
Yeah, well, obviously, people are saying that it's going to be, like we said earlier, Garza versus Scott versus Devlin or El Ligero versus Kendrick or Banks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would imagine. Who knows what they're going to do though? But this is all up in the air. But I mean, if you do get Garza versus Scott versus Devlin, which ties to the conversation we had earlier, versus either the Brian Kendrick or Travis Banks in a fatal 4-way on that kind of a stage, especially for the UK guys who may not necessarily get the chance to perform that big, it will be. I think they will go all out. And you were just talking about what match steals the show. That one just could be absolutely unbelievable. It could be absolutely ridiculous. Like the whole thing blows my mind. If you're into sort of, again, like I say, that independent match kind of scene, all of this is going to be fire. And look, you may even change a title there. I know it hasn't been on around Garza's waist overly long, but you could change the title there. You could put the title on a UK guy and have some kind of crossover, start some any kind of invasion angle. It certainly worked when, Survivor Series, that's when NXT was getting its best ratings. So maybe you want to do something like that. I don't know. There's loads of cool things you can do.
No, you're absolutely right. So, I mean, I really can't see them taking, like you said, I can't really see them taking the Cruiserweight title off of Garza so soon, especially putting it on the UK brand. But again, it would be something surprising for sure. But
yeah, I mean, I think the cool thing is, you don't know. That's the cool thing. You don't know. You doubt it, and I doubt it as well. But I wouldn't put it past them. It's not like, again, it's not like the Walter Joe Coffey match. Where I just deep down, I was like, it's just not going to happen. This one, I'd be like, I don't know. I'll see what happens on TV over the next few weeks, and we'll go from there. It's the same with Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm. I don't think there's in a million years do you take the belt off Rhea Ripley. Her build to winning it was such a big deal. They booked it so well, and one of the reasons Shayna Baszler was so successful is because she held that title for so long. And I think NXT has proven time and time again that with their world titles, they will do that over and over again. But because it is Toni Storm, and you know how much they have invested in her, and because she didn't win at NXT TakeOver 2 in Blackpool, I have like a 1.2% where you're like, well, maybe something interesting is going to go down. Also, that match I think is great. And I think those two are doing a really good job in building it up.
Okay, now, forgive me here for a second, but did they officially announce Ripley versus Toni Storm? I really don't remember that.
I'm not going to lie, dude. I'm going off information that I was reading about. Well, I'm basically going off the fact that her and Toni Storm are arguing on Twitter. That's what I'm going off.
Right,
they've just thrown so many barbs at each other. I'm like, surely that's a match. Surely it may have been properly announced, but I'm behind at the moment. But yeah, I'm going off the fact that they are having a social media war, which usually in WWE world will then relate to a match. And I think that's the match you do too. With everybody they've got, Toni Storm, is more synonymous with the UK brand. Obviously, Rhea Ripley right now is the number one in the US brand. That's the match I want to see when it comes to the women. There's nothing else that's going to get me as excited as that. Which some people may say, what about Kaylee Ray, given that she's the champion? No. Just on paper, I'm more interested in that.
Yeah, and plus that allows you to do something interesting with Kaylee Ray because you got Ripley versus Storm, which is, they're from the two different NXT brands. And you could have an established woman on NXT take on Kaylee Ray. So it kind of works both ways. Now, I can't remember because last night on NXT, they had a women's battle royal, which was really good. You really should check it out. That was for a number one contendership to Rhea Ripley, but I'm not completely sure if it was for Worlds Collide. I think it might just be for like next week on NXT. I could be wrong, but yeah, like if we are going to get Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm, totally down with that. Those two had great matches over the UK women's belt. So yeah, I'm all for that. And like I said, Kaylee Ray can put her title on the line against maybe, I don't know, Io Shirai or not Bianca Belair because she won the Battle Royal.
She won the Battle Royal, yeah. I mean, it's surprising, right? I didn't have her down for that at all. It genuinely surprised me. I was like, oh, okay, we're going that direction. She is great, though. It's definitely her time.
Yeah. She'll put on a good show against Rhea. But, yeah. So, yeah, like I said, I'm perfectly okay with Rhea and Toni. They're great. Again, we'll see what happens with what they do with Kaylee Ray. I'm sure they'll think of something.
Oh yeah, and obviously, and then we've got the big Imperium versus Undisputed Era match, 8-man tag. That's a proper World Collide thing. That's proper UK versus US. I love the fact the Undisputed Era now have been going on for what? Let me see if I can find out quickly. The stable was formed on August 19th, 2017, so we are over 2 years strong. These are the kind of groups that I like because they're not always together. There's been tension, tease. Eventually, you can break them up if you want. But, it's like the New Day. I invest more the longer you go on. I just do. And sometimes, much like the New Day, you could even go past the point I'm like, we should break them up. And I start liking them again. So, I just love the fact that... Yeah, I love the fact that we're doing this. Imperium, obviously, not that same way at all. They've only been together a short while. But I'm excited about this. I think it will be a brawl. I think it'll be all over the place. And I just think it may even start the things off. Just have a wild, wild fight on the outside of the ring.
Yeah, because obviously, because it's an 8-man tag and the Undisputed Era hold all the gold in NXT, obviously they're not going to be on the line. So, and neither is Walter's UK belt. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, it would be a bit surprising if they put that match on first. But again, I'd be all for it. I want to see these two factions, the two top factions in the NXT brands, collide. in this world.
And who knows where it goes to as well, right? Because you've got a couple of champions in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cool thing. Do we kind of spin off there? You just don't know. You just don't know.
Exactly. So yeah, I am henching my bets that this will be one of the best shows of the year, and we're only in the first month of 2020. So
tell me about it, man. Tell me about it. And what did you think about NXT last night as well, as we was recording this on the day it went live? Like, I managed to watch a little bit, basically, clips on Twitter because, again, I just haven't had a chance today. I usually watch it on Thursday evenings. I thought, from what I could make out, I thought the number one contenders battle royal, the women's one, was very, very good. I like the surprise of Casey Catanzaro coming back, and Tegan Knox was in it as well. And also, I thought the way that Belair threw Shirai out of there, I saw that. I was like, man, she really wanted to get her out of that Royal Rumble. I mean, if you don't know, it was Bianca Belair, Mia Yim, I've got a list here, Io Shirai, Santana Garrett, Zia Lee, Vanessa Bourne, Kaden Carter, Shotzi Blackheart, Catalina, Jesse Komet, and MJ Jenkins. And obviously, Shotzi Blackheart threw out Shayna
Baszler.
Shayna Baszler, thank you, Brain. Yeah, crazy. Like, what are they going to do there? So I thought it was a really, really well worked. Again, I watched it in clips, but from what I could make of it, a very, very well smart out thing. A complete different new challenger is going to challenge for the belt, but also telling all these stories and hopefully starting some new feuds as well.
Yeah, man. Like, I am like 100% behind Shotzi Blackheart. I saw her one time, and that was during the Evolve 10th anniversary show. She instantly just stole my heart in that show. She was amazing. And then when she got signed to NXT, tears of joy right there. And then her first match. Who's her first match against? I know it was during the Christmas episode because they had it pre-taped. I think it was Bianca. Yeah, I think it was Bianca Belair. Great match. And then, she throws out the former NXT women's champion. I mean, talk about strapping a rocket to somebody automatically, or at least making a statement. So, I'm really glad that they gave that honor to Shotzi.
No, and that's the thing, right? That's how you build someone, especially in a Royal Rumble. And it's not like when we did that with Maven all those years ago.
Yeah.
And we built Maven by killing him. We didn't do that. Undertaker didn't get Shayna Baszler didn't ruin her, not to that extent anyway. But that's the way to do it. And I want to see those two go at it. I do. I'm intrigued. Straight away, I was intrigued.
Yeah, and also like you said, the return of Casey Catanzaro. Like, when I saw her name on the Tron, I'm like, wow. I mean, obviously there had been rumors going around that, she had quit WWE or whatever the case was. I don't know exactly what the rumors were, but I was genuinely devastated. I wanted to see more of her because I think, she has the credentials to be a massive star, and she's back. So that just fills me with joy, man.
No, me too. And it goes to show, don't always believe what you read. Sometimes it gets drastically thrown out of proportion. What did you think about the rest of the show? Like I say, I'm not the best person to talk about it, man, but I know you've indulged. You mentioned to me when we were doing the super chat on the show earlier, you thought it was pretty damn good.
Oh yeah, NXT is just chef's kiss. It's an amazing show. Look, I'm sorry if I'm pissing off all the AEW fans listening right now, but come on, man.
Don't worry about
these
it.
These are two really good shows. All right, the Dynamite and NXT are really good shows, but the thing is, just for me, NXT it has that extra coat of polish. You know what I'm saying? It just something about it just puts it just a notch, one little notch above Dynamite, and last night proved it. Because we had, we had the debut of the Broserweights, man. Come on. Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne put on a fantastic match with Flesh, Morgan Webster, and Mark Andrews. Yeah. Fantastic match. And what was really surprising to me was the other Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic match between Grizzled Young Veterans and the reunited Time Splitters. Now, again, forgive me, people listening. I'm not familiar with the Time Splitters. Okay, I kind of knew who Kushida was because in his time in New Japan, I heard a lot of good things about him. I didn't know he was part of a tag team with Alex Shelley. So again, forgive my ignorance.
You're allowed to be ignorant, my friend. There's nothing wrong with that. You can't be expected to know everybody in wrestling.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they put on a dull performance. Total opposite of that. And I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of surprising to see Grizzled Young Veterans go over. But then once I saw the brackets, I'm like, okay, they're kind of making an even playing field, because now in the semifinals you got 2 teams from NXT and 2 teams from NXT UK. We got Imperium going up against Undisputed Era, and then we got Grizzled Young Veterans going up against the Cruiserweights. So it kind of evens it out. So yeah, I guess a lot of people were upset that the Time Splitters didn't make it past that round, and I'm kind of surprised that Alex Shelley took the pin in that match, because
I don't think he signed properly, has he, with the company? So I imagine it's something like that. I imagine it's you're not our guy.
Yeah, I think he was just brought in as like a little special attraction thing. I mean, heck, it's better than when they first announced it and they showed Kushida with a mystery partner. I'm like, huh. I kind of wonder what they're doing there. And then they announce it's the Time Splitters reuniting. Like, okay, well, I guess that's better than just, putting him with somebody completely random, I guess. At least they put him with somebody that a lot of the diehard indie wrestling fans are familiar with.
Yeah, I got a kick out of it. I remember reading about those guys. I never saw them much when they were doing it, but I remember reading about it. And again, there was so much love for them. I was quite excited when they got announced.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I was okay with Grizzled Young Veterans going over. And also, I got to give a shout out to the small percentage of audience that tried to do the "if you hate Gibson, shoes off" chant, man. That's one of my favorite chants. And I was really hoping.
Only in wrestling, right?
I was really hoping Full Sail would get on board with that, but it didn't happen. But I'm glad at least there were a few in there that tried,
It's just one of those things. It's, again, only in wrestling can you get weird nonsense like that, and I love it every single time. So no, I'm with you. I think I guess I haven't seen it, but it sounded good. It was a kick for the fans that knew about them. They don't have to win. Like, you don't always have to win in wrestling. It really, really don't. I know that sounds crazy to some people, but it's okay sometimes just to be there for a short angle, get in, get out. I'm looking forward to seeing it though. It sounds like a really, really good show. And you mentioned the Scott, Tyler Breeze, and Leo Rush triple threat match. I know a lot of people love that because they were waxing lyrical about Tyler Breeze and how we all need to remember how good he is.
Yeah, definitely. He it just really. It's just another one of those things where it's just like with when Finn Balor came back. It's like you got a genuine appreciation of how good these guys actually were when they were in NXT and how incredibly underutilized they were on the main roster. I mean, I know Finn Balor was treated more of a star than Tyler Breeze was, but both the guys had incredible talent, and sadly, they never got to truly show what they could do on the main roster. So. Is Fandango injured? I think I heard something.
He got injured again, unfortunately. He's having a bad run at the moment, poor guy. Yeah, that really sucks. But hey, it allows Tyler to get some singles action in. So, yeah, that's the main thing. Before we do wrap up, man, I do want to ask you a question because obviously you're quite an avid viewer of NXT. Mm-hmm. Were you surprised by? Because it could just be a one-off, as the ratings would have been out a long while before, but people already know about the ratings basically before we get there. But last week, obviously it did a good 750,000 or whatever it was, but it was really down in the demographic, and that genuinely it took me aback. I'm not going to lie, it's not what I was expecting at all. Do you have any idea of as a fan, like I say, of why that happened or anything like that?
I honestly don't know. I know that WWE is not like big in the whole 18 to 49 demographic thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I think it was just the drop that got me. It just surprised me so much. I was like, well, I know they had those 2 weeks off when they were, doing the award shows. Not the proper shows and everything like that. But I still didn't expect. Yeah, I didn't expect them to do that.
Well, yeah. Anytime you get like an award show or maybe like a pre-taped show, they're obviously not going to do as many viewers because sometimes, results leak online and people are just like, I'm not going to bother just because I already know the results. But yeah, like it is quite a shame that, NXT doesn't have the viewership that I think it should have, at least, I'm genuinely surprised it doesn't get at least 1 million viewers every year. I mean every week, but I just don't know. It is quite a excuse the pun here. It's an up and down thing. You know what I'm saying?
I'll take it, man.
It's like, yeah, like in terms of ratings, like AEW has beaten NXT ratings wise most of the time since it started. I really just don't know.
No, I get it. I'm just interested, man. I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do later. Like I say, it's certainly from what from what I can understand. I mean, I thought Dynamite was an awesome show. You can go back to the previous episode to hear me talk about that. But it sounds as if, taking away anything else that's happened over the last few weeks, that NXT absolutely smashed it too. There was good progression. There was good professional wrestling. So hopefully, when they all come out, it's a lot closer. I think having the ratings be close is good for everybody because, competition like that just creates more creativity. It just does. People, they get, that's why NXT moved to Wednesdays on TV. It lights a fire under people, and I think that's massively important. But we shall wait and see. I think the awesome thing about this week in general, again, SmackDown's already happened by the time you've heard this, but if SmackDown's good, what an amazing week for professional wrestling, all in all, right? Like it is, I think Raw is a better show. I think AEW was great. NXT sounds like it's absolutely smashed it too. I know that NWA, I haven't seen it yet, it's on my list, but they did good too. It's just, there's so much, there is so much there, and hopefully this is, hopefully it's just a step in the right direction for professional wrestling in general. Yeah,
I'm enjoying everything. Like NWA Power, I'm loving that show too for what it is. It's not the big high octane stuff that Dynamite and NXT are, but it's just still fun. I'm enjoying the stories they're telling, and they're kind of bringing in more established names, like Marty Scurll and Melina. I mean, heck, if they can get Scott Steiner there, I mean, they're doing something right, But,
I love Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner never going to leave. He's never going to leave pro wrestling. It's hilarious.
But yeah, so and I just want to say one thing because I know we probably want to wrap up here soon. So we've definitely highlighted NXT a lot in this episode. Like, again, I'm not saying Dynamite's a bad show. It's a good show, but it's just, for me personally, NXT just has that slightly better polish, and plus NXT UK. Listen, if there's anyone listening to this right now that doesn't watch NXT UK, please give it a watch, and support it. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there who say, well, WWE's killing the British indie scene. It's like, well, I'm sorry. They got a lot of great talent on that show. They snatched them all up, but they put on great matches. They tell great stories. So please just, give NXT UK a chance. Like, even if you just watch the takeovers, even though they only do 2 a year, just support the brand. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, dude. Can't argue with that, my friend. Can't argue with that at all. It's well said. It's well said. And again, the situation is what it is. But the best thing you can always do when it comes to professional wrestling is just support it as best you can. And I agree. Look, I don't watch NXT UK as much as I can just because there is an oversaturation of wrestling now. And I do think you have to pick and choose. But like my man Nick says, it is a very, very good show. You certainly won't be disappointed if you do decide to watch it. Or I'd be very surprised. It's a bunch of guys trying to kill themselves for the product, which is just that's what wrestling is. It's an incredible thing now where the in-ring stuff is almost taken for granted. You know, you've got to be good. You've got to be good, and they certainly prove each and every week that they are. And that's it. That's our NXT special. I don't think there's anything else to talk about. I did just see a headline that apparently Dave Meltzer didn't think that Bianca Belair should have won that Royal Rumble, so I'll be intrigued to learn more about that. To me, perfect person to win it. Someone different, somebody interesting. I can't wait to see where it goes. Dude, as a sort of a nice wrap-up, where do you want to see NXT? Where do you want NXT to be in a year? What do you want to see from it? Or are you just happy for them to continue on the road they're doing now?
I mean, I know that right now, you know, NXT and Full Sail have like a really good relationship, and you know that it's like, you know, you get that feeling that you're home when you're there, and so obviously if you take NXT on the road, it's kind of going to lose something a little bit, I think. I mean, it would obviously put NXT in front of bigger crowds, make it feel like a bigger show. If they do take it on the road, I'm not against that. But obviously, if it drops in viewership for whatever reason, then I don't know. Maybe they might have to stay in Full Sail for the foreseeable future. I don't know. I mean, NXT is just really good right now. The way I see it, it can only get better from here. Yeah, that's all I got.
Oh, no, hell yeah, dude. I like it. It can only get better from here. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Well, look, Nick, man, I want to thank you so much. Thank you for your continued patronage as well. It's really cool now. Like we built up this rapport just over talking on podcasts, and I think that's badass. So thank you to you, my friend, as always. And again, if you want to come on the podcast, you can. Head over to patreon.com/SimonMiller316 or SimonMiller316 and check it out. There's other rewards there too. You can just throw $1 in there, which is always appreciative. Make sure you check out the YouTube live shows. At the moment, the schedule is definitely Tuesdays at 1 p.m. and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Sometimes life gets in the way, but just keep an eye out for that notification once you do subscribe. Otherwise, you can get my wrestling merchandise at simonmiller.bigcartel.com. All my podcasts are supported by pinsandknuckles.com and pinsandknucklesmerch.com that also carries an exclusive Simon Miller t-shirt. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at SimonMiller316 if you want to yell at me. But more important than that, just enjoy yourself. Have good weekends. Enjoy wrestling as much as you can. Enjoy all the internet hate. Keep yourself positive, and I will talk to you again very soon.